Yeah, so this is when it comes to the supply chain professionals skills, this is very resourceful, but you know what, there's still some work that we need to do to actually make use of the information that is here. Because why I think this is different from what we're trying to do. Apparently, they are focusing on supply chain profession as a whole, whereas we're looking at how supply chain is going to be impacted by the disruptive technologies,
Yeah.
in terms of how that then changes the kind of roles that we're going to be assuming in the industry in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between what I'm seeing here and what we're actually talking about. But it's a very good resource for what we're trying to do, because in a way, at least it helps us to see, okay, uh, what the supply chain group in Canada, supply chain Canada, is looking at in terms of their own outlook as far as the supply chain and procurement skills are concerned. So I looked through some of the headings. They actually broke this down into three competencies groups. You have the foundational, you have the core competencies. I think you have the technical competencies. So those are the three groups that they have. Which so what was of interest to me is the overview. So basically, they have some job descriptions, is what I will call it, or functions stated in each of those competencies. So that's what they call the overview. In this particular case, now they call this the supply chain strategy. So this is one competency area. Currently, this will fall under the foundational. Let me see the categories here. Um, Core, okay, so it falls under the core competencies. So these are the competencies, so which is interesting anyways, because now we're not only talking about supply chain strategy now, there is a supply chain design, which is very, very important. There is a supply chain analytics, and then there's supply chain dynamics and system technology deployment. Okay, so for me, those are, I think I can see at least three new things here. The supply chain design, though
Mm-hmm.
it has been in the old competency framework for the supply chain professional design designation, that's the SEMA or SEMP. I think this is there in a way. Then there is the supply chain analytics, which has not been seen in any of the previous framework that they had, even the supply chain management professionals uh, framework for their designation. It's not showing there. And then I see the systems technology deployment, which is also new. So these three are very, very important for us as we are looking into how the supply chain profession is being impacted by disruptive technologies. Apparently, this is a response from the Supply Chain Management Association, Supply Chain Canada, regarding the way that we should adapt to the disruptive technologies. So these three things here that I see, not only these new ones that I'm seeing here, will be fundamental to what we're going to be doing in terms of the work we're trying to do. But what I also found out that is that even with the old ones, supposedly old ones like the supply chain strategy, supply chain design, and supply chain dynamics, I see that even in those areas, there have been some new things that came up as a result of the disruptive technologies. I see we're talking about business intelligence here. Can you see that? Share
Yeah.
business intelligence.
Yeah.
So which falls under strategies in this area. I see develop improvement plans for the optimal management of end-to-end processes of the supply chain through digitization. Okay, so that's clearly we know about optimal management of the end-to-end processes, but in this time around, we're now talking about digitization of that component of supply chain. So definitely This is an aspect that is being impacted by the disruptive technologies, specifically when we talk about automation. But the thing to notice here is that this is not really about machine learning or artificial intelligence in a way. Um, Automation is not new in supply chain apparently, or in manufacturing for that matter. But it's still an improvement to see that at least we're talking about digitization, rather than just the traditional approach, which will be manual or for the most part maybe analysis through the use of Excel spreadsheet and all that. So I also saw something in the multiplicity, even though I thought that multiplicity is a way to confuse a lot of people. I don't know why that language is used. But what do you think about that language? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, I can hear you. You were talking about multiplicities.
Yeah, so for me, now we're talking about configuration of supply chain management here is where I understand what they are saying here. I guess, yeah, there are different types of configuration of supply chain. The one that I could, definitely relate with is a multi-tiered supply chain approach where you're not dealing with just every other suppliers in the supply chain. You probably would have some prime suppliers, to manage all the downstream supply chain. So this is really what I see that they're talking about here. But what is your take?
Hmm. Well, like you said, it's I think they just a lot of word configuration, so which doesn't make much difference to me because part of what they're saying, like I could see in a likely approach to segmented supply chain strategies, which go beyond the idea of lean agile supply chain. So, just putting a lot of the interrelated um, areas of the supply chain together and using a very beautiful word that looks
Mhm.
colorful word.
Okay. Yeah, sounds about it. One thing I noticed here is that implement and where possible digitize. So again, that word came up there, autonomous process models that leverage the common aspects of diverse supply chains but provide unique functionality. So yeah, the digitization thing is coming up. Is also talking about performance management here. Maybe regarding supplier performance management or even the employees performance management as well. So digitizing that will be something that is interesting in that area. So when you look at the all overviews, you will always see that. So now this is about the design. Okay, so this is the multiplicity. So on top of the below the supply chain multiplicity, you still have the demand management strategy. I think that's let's see, that's still under the supply chain strategy, is it? Yeah, still part of
Yes.
the strategy, demand management. Then there is pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is global logistics strategies. And you have supply chain sustainability. But when I look through all of these things, I see an attempt to always mention the digitization, which is what is interesting for me in all of the things I'm seeing here. So this is the supply chain design. Not much in terms of digitization that I saw here. Still like same old here. But I think this is an aspect that actually will be impacted a lot by digitization because now we're talking about quality management, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about how do you measure quality and all that stuff. And when you really think about it, this is an area where blockchain is going to impact. In terms of the what we already have going on in terms of supply chain and the application of blockchain, one I can remember vividly is pharmaceutical area. In the pharmaceutical area, apparently it is very important for them, and medical as well. So we do have some case studies of where blockchain is being used to actually track the source origin of the products that are moving through a supply chain. You can use that to control maybe fake products from proliferating, and a lot of other applications in that area. And I think blockchain is going to impact that for sure. But you can see here that really I'm not sure there is any mention regarding the use of blockchain. But I see the digitized word again here. Okay. Digitize or automate change management programs. Yeah, but this refers to project change management. Um, then also the use of systems technology to ease measurement. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to see here. I don't see that. To me, this is eye level, right?
Okay.
Yeah, this is eye level. I'm not seeing is exactly how that impact, and this is really what we need to do, because I give it to them that they did a very great work in terms of trying to come up with something that addresses supply chain from end to end in terms of the competencies that are required. But well, beyond that, we're gonna have people who are gonna be having day-to-day interaction with these activities, and the use of technology is pretty much going to be invasive in all these areas. So I guess they've done their own part. It's just for people or companies who are actually going to be using these, or schools who are going to be using these to develop their curriculum to actually go beyond what they have done in terms of the high level competencies. Um, yeah, so that's really what I see generally when it comes to, but the one that I think has most impact on our work, on what we're doing, are in the areas of the let me see what they call that now, the supply chain analytics. um Let me see, supply balancing, demand sensing and shipping dynamics. So let's scroll down. Okay, so we're actually at the very end of it. So this system technology deployment, yeah. So this particular area, why I'm interested in this area is, for a long time, okay, IT folks have really, kind of been given that responsibility, even though they were not, part of the supply chain um, function. So you have a situation where, if you read a little bit about the history of ERP implementation in organizations, we have a lot of situations where these ERP implementations are failing, apparently because it's IT folks that are deploying these technologies, and clearly it is not their domain when it comes to supply chain, because they don't understand the operational constraints, the business requirements as far as the process flow, the workflow approvals, and all of those things, even how that impact business strategies. So it's just a matter of them coming in and then putting these systems in place and basically changing a lot of things, and before you know it, people are struggling. And there's even a case of a company that actually filed bankruptcy, just because the ERP system failed. I think it's a company also in the pharmaceutical industry. So we have this here now, which kind of set that tone for the role of supply chain and procurement professionals in systems technology deployment. So I guess we don't have any excuse anymore to say that this is not really our area, okay? Because really clearly it is written here what should be the role of supply chain managers when it comes to
And the
technology.
system technology.
Yeah. So there you have it. So for me, this is an area which is really impressive. I really, yeah, this is awesome. They create a digital environment and data driven culture. manage the process of developing functional requirements across business. So now, when this is something that talks about the business analyst area. So and was one of the areas where the IT people failed when it comes to implementing business technologies, because they didn't really have the business knowledge, and this led to the role of the business analyst that kind of proliferated, because now we know that if the requirements are not correctly defined, there is a tendency that technology deployment is going to fail.
Yeah.
So right now you have this here now which talk about developing the functional requirements. So for a business analyst, maybe a procurement or supply chain business analyst, they will actually take up some of these roles. Okay, so going back to what I just showed earlier, where we saw, okay, what are emerging roles? So apparently this is one of the roles that is going to fall under the business analyst the responsibility. But manage is the word you have here, whereas as a business analyst, that might not really be their role. They might not really manage, but at least they can facilitate the process of developing functional requirements. Ultimately, whoever has a lead role, like the innovation lead, out of the three that I put in there as the emerging functions, the innovation lead will be the one who actually manages the process. The business analyst actually facilitate, or at least in a way contribute towards that, because that's the role that business analysts are actually playing now. They are the ones actually generally generating the business and functional requirements for this type of project. So yeah, interesting one here, technology innovation. So this definitely ties into what an innovation lead will be doing. Establish digital technology systems, networks, tools, and application to process information, manage process of implementing systems, technology projects in selected areas, create a digital environment, driven data-driven culture. So this is very great. I really like what I'm seeing in those areas. Yeah, so but for us as a focus group, what we're actually then doing is to see how we can, uh, you know, look at what we have on the ground now in terms of the way we are working with these disruptive technologies, their potential impact, in future, and then see those emerging roles we identified. What are the functions based on even the help that we're getting right now from this document? They've done the heavy lifting already, is what I would say. It's just for us to then see how we are able to put these roles, these functions, and then try to see how we can then allocate them to those emerging roles. Yeah, so that's what I think we will then be doing here in terms of those functions. This is the supply chain analytics aspect. So we talk about the emerging role that we call the procurement and data analytics, or what is being called supply chain analysts right now. I think is what they're being called in the industry right now. So the difference between somebody you call a data procurement or supply chain data analyst and the supply chain analyst, really, for now, only time will tell what will be the difference. For me, procurement and supply chain data analyst is the future, but what we have right now is called a supply chain analyst. Uh, but we need to then see how to translate what we have here to what the role of our supply chain and data analyst will be. So as you can see, there's a master data being central to all of this, decentralized master data for analysis and interpretation, collaborate with the IT team to migrate data from legacy systems. Okay, so these are really interesting, because now we have supply chain going straight for for what is really important in terms of taking that responsibility for data and not just leaving it for IT people to struggle with or to own. So now we're owning this, rather than just thinking it's not part of our role. Conduct data profiling, transformation, cleaning. This is basically what a data analyst does actually, or data analyst and data engineer. These are the things that they're into. Embed analytics into the business culture, which is awesome.
So can I ask a question? With this framework that is, can you hear me, Biodun?
Yeah, I can hear you.
With this framework from Supply Chain Canada, are they not saying that the supply chain analysts will not be very much involved in the cleaning, data mining, data warehousing, and cloud computing?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what
Yes.
you have. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
So
what
that
you have
means,
there.
so that means anybody that is into supply chain, it is best that if you think this is an area that you're interested in, you have to develop the skills for these places, for these areas.
For sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it is. Then they are talking about designing, implementing, and managing predictive analytics. These are things that we are not doing even as we speak, because what we have right now, like I said, is a supply chain analyst. Uh, right now, I have a posting in the portal there, which is a posting for some organization. I'm not sure if I share with you guys, but it mentioned quite a number of things, of course, that are also new to supply chain. But I think this actually, what we have here actually goes beyond that, because now we're talking about consider the creation of a master data center of excellence. So really we are owning this thing when it comes to data. We don't want to assume that it's for IT. Now we're taking ownership of this thing. Is what I see here. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very good. So but this is something. What I would say is this is an aspirational document as far as when it comes to digitization or all of these things that we're talking about right now. It will be great to see that even that beyond just writing this at an overview level, an eye level like this, that will actually go beyond this even at organizational level, because that's a different ball game entirely. I mean, think about it. We struggle a lot, even talking about traditional supply chain and procurement, where we have uh, other functions that are kind of struggling with us. That they have ownership of these things. I mean, talking about finance for the most part, they wanted to own a lot of the things that we are doing when it comes to accounting for cost savings and all that. Finance people thought they are the one who owns cost, responsibility in an organization. So we had a lot of struggle there. Now, but now we're now adding on top of that, even while we're still kind of, trying to adjust to, the old, that kind of dynamics with these other functions who thought that they have that co-ownership of what we are doing. So yeah, but it's a great step forward, given that when we actually take ownership of these things, well, the CIO, which is Chief Information Officer, in a way, they take us seriously, because we the supply chain function or the industry itself, when it comes to supply chain, millions of data that is being generated is coming from the supply chain. So I don't see in any business where you have a CIO responsibility that would not take us seriously. That's if we take ownership of this. But if we don't, that's where we're gonna still have this issue. We're still gonna be, struggling with people who are in IT as to whose responsibility it is to actually take on these type of roles, especially what we call a master data center of excellence. Well, that's a long shot as far as I can see. Okay, so yeah, so that's talking about this new document that just came up. But the reason why I'm actually talking about this document is it's gonna do a lot of help in terms of heavy lifting for our own work. So, but let's move back to what I was showing earlier in terms of the. Let me let me stop this share and then share something else here. Okay. Okay, let's see. I thought I had that document here, but it doesn't appear I have it. Let's see. Information group. Oh, it's interesting. Oh, that document. That document actually has some job roles. Yeah, but never mind. Let's look at the one that I had already. So I think what we can do now as a group is to actually see. Oh, this is what I was talking about actually. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, procurement analyst skills. So I was trying to kind of put in some of the things that I'm seeing in the articles that I'm reading, or some of the job roles that I've seen out there, to actually put up something that could be considered for the role of a procurement analyst or even a supply chain analyst. So this is what I'm trying to do here. So in one of those postings, I saw this. So just to your question, Caleb. So this came out from actually an actual job posting.
I think you posted a job like this. It posting a job posting like this some time ago, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, Airpotex. It belongs to Airpotex. That was their supply chain analyst role that they posted. So, well, you still have the grandfather Microsoft Excel, analytical models, mathematical analysis, and all that. But when we talk about the future, we're going to be talking more about machine learning and some of the applications that are using machine learning. Things like the R, we're going to be talking about those. Python, the programming language. So these are some of the things that will fall under this procurement analytics skills. So I guess our job for now as a group is to actually then um, suggest what these functions will be for a procurement analyst skills based on some of the findings we're trying to do as a group, as a focus group. So those are the things. We'll have some ways to actually check with maybe folks who are subject matter experts in these areas, like those guys they're going to be doing a presentation or webinar. They're able to actually, help us with some subject matter experts review of what we are proposing. So